go. Hello, everyone. I had to run out of the room just to take care of a little thing really quick. But let's go ahead and get started. But first, does anybody have any guesses? I see one somewhere. Is it Viola? Carol guessed? Anyhow, if you have a guess on what plants petunias are related to, go ahead and put that in the comments, and I'll catch you on the other side. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our weekly show right here on the internet. And of course, we're available on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and I don't have it on here, but we're also available over on TikTok at Bob's Market. So we're pumping out more TikTok videos if you're into that. But you can catch our live show every Tuesday at 5 p.m. both on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can re-watch an episode anytime over on our website at bobsmarket.com/live. So, first off this week, I wanted to head out to the greenhouse. Today, I was down at our Mesa Market, and while I was there, I took a stroll around and got some great video and pictures of what's blooming right now. So this is what we have available right now in our stores. I'm trying to read comments and talk at the same time. I need to not do that. But anyhow, here is a quick update of what's happening at our markets. Today I'm down here at our Mason, West Virginia market, where we still have a wide selection of plants available. So let's go take a look at some of the beautiful blooms that we have here right now. Alright, so I see Patty did some Googling, and she wants to know, what's a nightshade? So yeah, petunias, they are in the nightshade family of plants. So petunias are closely related to What's over my shoulders right here, which is Calibrachoas. Um, Calibrachoas, million bells, basically little baby petunias. Um, Another plant in that family is flowering tobacco, Nicotiana. And it's called Nicotiana. If you think of the beginning of that word, the Nico, nicotine, tobacco. So petunias, Calibrachoa, flowering tobacco, regular tobacco like people smoke is also in the nightshade family. But also you have plants like tomatoes and also potatoes. So those are all members of the nightshade family. So yeah. And the reason why I used that as this week's trivia question is because I'm going to be planting some petunias in the next video. And what I was planting this week was 4.5-inch pots. And due to the coloring of our Bulbs Better Blooms pots, part of it's invisible because of the green screen. But this is a 4.5-inch pot, and I use it to store binder clips here in my office. But these pots are a great choice for both flower beds, like I'm going to be planting in this week's video, but also large containers. So if you have a mixed container that you're planting, 4.5-inch pots make a great choice for those. So in last week's Bulbs Live episode, I was planting bedding flats, which are basically a smaller plant. So this is like the next size up in plant size. So you get a little bit more of a mature plant that's a little bit bigger. So you get more of a pop of color to begin with. So this week I was planting a flower bed that's right next to my driveway, kind of like where you pull into my driveway out next to my street. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. In our last video, we planted this bed, and I planted Dusty Miller and White Impatiens. And my plan for the front of my house this year is to do mainly white flowers. And today what we're going to be doing is planting the other flower bed that's in front of my house. Now last year I expanded that bed a little bit. We did a Bulbs Live episode about that. And I also planted gladiolus in them. And they looked great, but I just didn't care for them over the last year, because gladiolus, they have a little bit of a problem. They get tall and they tend to flop over if you don't support them. So it looked great early on in the summer, and by the end of the summer they were a big floppy mess. So this year what I'm planning on doing is planting a mix of white petunias and Calibrachoa and a couple other flowers that I'm going to mix in. Alright, I got the bed cleaned out. I did find quite a few bulbs from stuff that I planted last summer and last fall. And any bulbs that I found that looked good, I dug those up and set them aside, and I'm going to replant them elsewhere on my property. But it is pretty toasty out today, so on days like today, make sure you stay hydrated. I just passed a kidney stone a couple weeks ago. Wasn't fun, and I think it's mainly because when I'm outside working, I tend not to drink enough. one of the plants that I decided to leave in this bed is this chrysanthemum that I planted last year. Chrysanthemums in our area, it's kind of a 50-50 shot whether they'll make it through the winter or not. So we tend to sell them as an annual, but in some cases they can survive throughout the winter. So what I'm going to do right now is remove some of this dead growth. I can just sort of go in and snap it off so it looks a little bit better. And then I'm also going to trim this back. One of the things that you need to do if you overwinter a mum like this is trim it back about this time of year, and that'll prevent it from blooming too early. Because you want to hold off the blooming until right around August. So they will bloom a little bit earlier than if you buy a chrysanthemum in the fall, but they still just make a beautiful pop of color late in the season. And also because of the pyrethrins in chrysanthemums, this acts as a natural pest repellent right here in my flower bed. Is a lot of the old growth. Now what you can do is take a pair of scissors, or in my case I'm just going to use my pocket knife and trim off about the upper couple inches or so. Okay, that looks pretty good, and my hands smell amazing now. And now it's time to start planting. I think I have a layout that I'm fairly happy with. I've got mostly petunias. I did on each side of the mum put in a scaevola, which is a white one. And then down here on this end, I added some kind of white with a little bit of yellow, and the Meja right here at the end. And then also here at the end of this bed, I added a couple of calibrachoas. And I think this layout will fill in pretty nicely. So now it's just a matter of planting everything, adding the mulch, and watering it. And here we have the finished flower bed. Looks pretty good. Alright, so I was pretty happy with how that flower bed turned out. And I think it's going to look a lot different than it did last year with the gladiolus in it. What I'd always kind of intended to do is, well, the main reason why I created that little extension of that flower bed that goes out around the guy wires for the power pole is because I hated weed eating around that. And now I can just go right up against it with the riding lawnmower. And, I don't really have to go in around it with a weed eater to edge it. But I also had the idea of the way that bed is kind of angled. If you're pulling on to our street and kind of turning into our driveway, that kind of faces our house at an angle. So I didn't want to dox myself in the video by showing my address. Um, but we'll put a nice little address plate there that has our address on it, and then a little solar light to light it up. So that way, people can find our house, but not people on the internet. um, anyhow, that's kind of my ending vision for that flower bed. So I think this year with some lower flowers, it'll look a lot better, rather than having the big floppy gladiolus that I had last year. And the bulbs that I dug up, I relocated to somewhere else on my property, and you'll be seeing that in an upcoming video, because over the weekend I actually recorded 3 weeks worth of videos, which I'm probably going to spread out over the summer. So if you see me in videos wearing that same outfit again, that's why. I tend to record a bunch all at once and then edit it together later. So that is part of the projects that I have going on right now at my house. Of course, we've been out in the meadow garden. That was some of the other project videos that I recorded that day, is a massive expansion of it that I'm doing. And then also a smaller project that I sort of covered last year on a Bob's Live episode. And then I have yet another gardening project that I haven't really even gotten started on yet, and that is my vegetable garden. This year I'm switching to raised beds, and to be honest, I just haven't had the time to get out in the garden. I've got it tilled up, but I need to get the weed cloth down and then actually build the beds, get them filled with dirt. And well, once you start looking at all the steps involved, it's like, I may or may not have garden beds by midsummer, but that's part of the fun of gardening. Well, the last thing that I had this week is something that happened yesterday. And the video for it I got from YouTube, from a guy, local person by the name of Curry Russell. So you can head over and check out his YouTube channel if you want to see the full video. So I'm just going to share like a short little 30-second clip of the relevant part of the video. But in case you missed it, and maybe if you don't live around this area, up in New Haven, there is a power plant, the Phillips Bourne plant, that's just north of the larger Mountaineer power plant. And back in 2015, the plant closed, and now they're in the process of demolishing the plant. So yesterday, they actually blew up the 2 smokestacks for the plant. And it's kind of close to me because my grandfather, he started working there when the plant originally opened in 1949 and retired from Sporn. And my dad, he also worked there pretty much his entire life and retired from there. He actually retired the year that the plant closed. And also, when I was in college, I worked there during the summers to help pay my rent and other expenses in college. So, it's 3 generations of us that worked at that plant. So it's kind of interesting now to see it being torn down. And it was kind of weird yesterday because I've actually been up on top of those stacks. So yeah, that was really interesting. And Patty says it shook her house like crazy, plus the aftershock. And yeah, in the video that I'm going to show you, you can see the explosion, but then also whenever the stacks hit the ground, because they're a big tube basically that's filled with air and all that gets compressed, it created a secondary shock wave that you can see. So if you watch the one on the right in the video, you'll be able to see that shock wave whenever it hits. So, well, let's take a look at that.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There it goes. Oh, that stack is not falling good. Oh, one on the right's going. Oh my gosh, look at this. Oh, wow. Oh. Oh my goodness. Oh.
Well, I guess we ended this week's show on a bang. So, until next time, keep growing.